After a while, he made his move. His hands were all over her. At first, she was definitely going along with it. But as he stripped her, she became less comfortable. When he went to take her skirt off, she resisted, saying, "No, I'm sorry. This is wrong, and I didn't mean to do this. I'm going to leave now." She tried to get up, but he threw her back on the sofa and said, "Too late now, you're going to get F." She rolled off the other end of the sofa and started toward the door. Perez grabbed her, spun her toward him, and with a smirk on his face, punched her. While she writhed on the floor, he got undressed, grabbed her, and threw her on the bed. She was hurting too much to struggle as he yanked her skirt down. I could not watch anymore and closed the file. Then I raced to the bathroom and threw up violently. When I recovered a bit, I made a copy for George. Deciding to continue, I clicked the next file and got another surprise. Mary walked into his room. He gave her money, and she S and F him. Well, she told us that she was a W. Still, it surprised me to see her in action. I noted that she had bigger T than I had thought. There were 2 other files of interest, both from this afternoon, just a few hours ago, in fact. The first was a phone call to Marge asking her to stop by because he was so H. After a bit of playing around, Marge agreed. The last file showed Marge walking in, kissing and hugging Perez, then dropping to her knees. She left shortly after that. With no particular reason, I saved the 3 files for George as well. I called George and told him that I had to see him immediately. He agreed and suggested that he could come right over to my house. But it was getting too close to the time that Marge could be home, so I asked to meet him at his office. 10 minutes later, he answered his door. I did not enter, but handed him the flash drive and said, "George, there are 4 files on this. The first one is the important one. I couldn't watch it and I am sorry that you have to do so. I'll be waiting in my car when you are done." Almost an hour later, George opened the car door and got in with me. He looked at me and said, "I don't know who she is, but I will find out. And Perez is going to pay." Putting his seatbelt on, he added, "To the bar, James. I don't want booze. I want some answers, some from Mary." Mary was sitting at the bar but not working it. When she spotted us, she waved to the bartender to get us a pair of gin and tonics. After he set them down in front of us, she hugged George and squeezed my hand, and then said, "Hi guys, it's always good to see you too." Blindly I said, "Hi Mary, it's great to see you." George stared at her and said, "Mary, what is wrong? If you're enjoying my content, consider joining my Patreon community. By becoming a patron, you'll get access to full parts of my videos much earlier than everyone else. Plus, you'll be supporting me to create even more awesome content for you. Check out the link in the description to join now." Her face crumpled and she said, "George, you were right again. I picked up venereal diseases. That's why I can't work at the bar. I'm infected and don't want to risk infecting anyone else. I'm done being a W, and I am done worrying about school. I am just going to make it as I can, without being either a nurse or a W." You're not done with school," beat George's, "You are going to be a nurse," by a half second. Mary just hung her head and replied, "No, I can make it with this job if I don't have to save for school." "That's good enough now." George grabbed her by the arm and spat. No, it's not even close to being good enough. You talked about becoming a nurse that day in that jail cell, and you have worked for it every day since. I'm glad you are not going to sell yourself anymore, but I will not let you give up," I added. "We'll find another way, Mary." She looked at us both with tears in her eyes and said, "I couldn't ask for better friends, but I can't and won't ask you guys for help. That would be taking advantage of our friendship." George and I looked at each other before I said, "Good. You're not asking, and since you can't stop us, the subject is closed. We'll get back to you." We all laughed, and then I followed up on it. "George," I asked, "aren't there going to be some openings on the base shortly?" Before he could answer, Mary got serious again. "Guys," she said, "there are 2 other things I have to tell you. First, I know that you are watching Will Perez. I can see the door to his room though the front windows of the bar. And I hope that you bust him soon." Stone-faced, George nodded. "Well, the first thing that I did after learning that I had venereal diseases was to F him." My mouth dropped and I gasped, "Why?" She snarled at me, 'cause that was the only way that I could hurt the bastard." In a menacing tone, George asked, "Mary, what did he do to you?" "He didn't do anything to me. But he are and beat a woman. No, a girl. She could barely walk. I went over to her to try to help. She was crying. Her face was bruised and bloody. Her skirt was torn, and blood was running down her legs. All she would let me do was help her to her car, and then she left." Mary added, "George, she might have been 20, and she was wearing an Air National Guard uniform. She is one of yours." "I know," George said. "I will find her and make sure she is getting help, and he is going to regret everything he has done." Turning to me, he added, "And I suspect that David has some nasty ideas that he hasn't told me about yet. We can talk about it." It was about midnight when I got to bed. Marge was asleep, and now George knew all my plans. He was also going to see if Mary could fit into base procurement. They were shortly going to have several openings. Saturday was a quiet day. Marge and I did not talk much. We did the usual movie night, but when I arrived with the drinks, Marge was sitting in the center of the sofa with Tom and Julia on either side. Normally Marge and I sit next to each other, and the kids sit next to us on the sofa. I sat in an armchair, noticing that Tom and Julia looked uncomfortable, while Marge looked smug. Marge went to bed early. I used the time to check the voice recorders, but drew a blank. She had one email from Perez thanking her for the relief Friday and looking forward to next Wednesday. We didn't really talk Sunday. We just went through the motions of normal lives. I went to bed slightly before Marge and noticed that she was still going into the bathroom to change into her flannels. She had to know that her lies and cheating had us, in a downward spiral. She got into bed without saying anything, but got in roughly enough to be sure that she wakened me. I didn't say anything, as she immediately rolled away from me. I was fine with that. She could keep her diseases. Monday afternoon, George called to tell me that he had found their victim. She had gone to a civilian hospital, and after talking, was now willing to testify against Perez. He also informed me that they were planning to conduct the raid next Monday morning. He added that he hoped that I could leave Marge to do her thing this week so as not to risk tipping off Perez. I again agreed and told him that I was planning on telling Marge that I would be out of town from Wednesday until Sunday, but that I would actually get a room at the motel and would work on the details of what I had told him. Next, I called Kevin at the motel and reserved the room directly over Perez's for 5 days. Monday night at dinner, I told Marge and the kids that I had to go out of town Wednesday and would be back Sunday. Julia and Tom expressed dismay. Marge didn't react. Tuesday, Marge and I basically did not talk. I packed a bag and put it in my car. After everyone went to bed, I checked the voice recorders. Only one conversation was interesting. It was from Marge to Ashley this morning. Marge said, "Ashley, that bastard is ruining things." "Will or David?" a confused Ashley asked. "David. We have been fighting, or at least ignoring each other for days now. He told me last night that he is going out of town Wednesday morning and won't be back until Sunday. Again, I won't have the chance to F them both the same day, damn it." Ashley said, "Marge, you'd better take care of problems with your husband before you worry about your fantasies. This has gone on too long." "Yeah," Marge replied. "But if David would stop being a jerk, I would rock his world. I just don't understand why he has to be so difficult." "Great. She is F around. But I am being difficult." I saved the file anyway. I went to work early Wednesday, but left around noon to check into the motel. I pulled the video receiver from my car and set it and 2 laptops up in the room. For the next few days, I would have real-time access to the feed as well as the internet. Then I waited until about 1, watching out the window. I saw Marge pull up and walk to his room. She had her laptop with her. Turning on the live feed, I watch her hug and kiss him. She told him that she had to check email first, and then started her laptop and connected to the motel's internet connection. They both worked on their computers for about 10 minutes. As soon as she told him that she was done, he picked her up and carried her to the bed. Dropping her on it, he said, "I need to F you, baby." She pulled him down to her to kiss him and said, "And I need you to F me." I turned the sound down and remotely logged in to Perez's computer, and from his, into Marge's laptop while they undressed each other. Then I went to work. They played, rough and hard, for almost 2 hours and then fell asleep in each other's arms. They woke up around 5 p.m., which gave me 4 hours of access to their computers. When they started waking up, I logged out but kept watching. She woke up first, looked around, saw the clock, and then saw him. She shook him, saying, "Will, wake up, honey. We fell asleep." He snorted as he woke up and rolled on his back. He asked, "What time is it?" "A little after 5. I have to get going." He yawned. "Me too. I promised the wife I'd take her out to dinner." She playfully hit him and said, "Hey, I don't want to hear about that. I hear too much about your husband and kids. Don't forget," he said as he started getting up from the bed. She grabbed him and said, "Sweetie, I am sorry that I said that. I know we have other lives, and I love mine. I just get jealous sometimes thinking of you being with your wife. I know, baby, what we are doing is hard for both of us." He added, "I'm glad that you haven't F your husband lately. I like thinking about how your body is mine alone." She reacted, "It's not yours. I choose to share it with you, but I love my husband, and I am going to make it up to him for the last few weeks that I have been neglecting him. I do love my time with you. Please understand that. But I can't risk ruining my marriage." He pulled away from her and said, "Hey, I don't want my wife finding out either." As he got up, he said, "Damn, my shoulders are on fire." She gasped and said, "Will, I'm sorry. I scratched you. God, I am sorry." Heck, he went to the bathroom mirror and viewed his battle scars. "You scratched the F out of me, B. I'm sorry," she cried as she rolled out of bed. She immediately cried again as she arose. She wiped her hand over her and saw that it was bloody and screamed again. "You bastard. You promised to be careful. You tore me. And you marked my T again. Yeah, like I asked you to rip the skin off of my shoulders. How am I going to keep that secret from my wife? Damn it. I'm sorry." Marge moaned. "I guess we can't keep our passion under control. I guess," he muttered. "Let's get cleaned up and dressed. I've got to get home." When they were ready, he gave her a peck on the cheek, grabbed her ass and said, "Lover, I'll see you soon." She kissed him back and then left.